Well, Jim, this podcast is going to be a day late or two, and I hope you have a good reason for it. I guess the dog ate your homework. I suppose it was raining and I couldn't leave the house. What is your excuse?
Just a gas leak.
A gas leak. A likely story. Oh, is that gas I smell?
Coming from you? Probably.
That's so mean.
The Gaming Lovers Podcast with Brendo and Jem. G'day and welcome to the Gaming Lovers Podcast, episode 125. I'm Jem.
I'm Brendo. Shout out to our neighbour who actually struck a gas line doing their garden renovations, forcing us out of the house, forcing our entire planned weekend to fall apart, bumping our whole week schedule out of whack, and thus we are making a tardy entrance into this episode of The Gaming Lovers.
Yes. Dial before you dig, people.
Tardy.
I always associate that with the movie Clueless. Anyway.
I've got nothing to contribute to that conversation topic.
People who've seen the movie Clueless will understand the reference. Anyways, this episode of the Gaming Lovers Podcast is going to be looking at some gaming news, in particular from a certain wrestling brand. And no, not WWE. A different wrestling promotion has a lot of gaming news. So we're going to be looking a little bit into that, as well as other things that we are excited for a new year, new games.
New year,
Woo!
new me. No, same old me. Video games, the beanbag, snacks. Yeah, it's pretty much new year, old me.
And a bit of Cyberpunk on the side.
Ooh.
All of that wrapped up in this fortnight's episode of the Gaming Lovers Podcast. But before we get there, it is time for
Gaming goals. It's time for gaming goals.
Are you trying to sing like you're in Yakuza doing karaoke?
Gaming goals.
Hey, hey, hey. Isn't that how they cheer?
Yes. I rob you. Da, 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 da. You rob me. Da, 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 da.
Okay.
Karaoke is one of the most fun parts of that game because as you're trying to focus on the rhythm game aspect, there are bizarre scenes occurring in the background.
Yes.
It's like the only time you see Kiryu smile is when he's playing that ukulele.
Well, they've got to have these ridiculous side things to do because the main story is usually pretty grim.
Well, look, we are talking gaming goals. We are talking about the Yakuza series, and I am making my way through Yakuza 6, The Song of Life.
How's baby Haruto?
He is currently not with me. He's been left behind with someone else.
You just gave your kid to someone else?
Hey, not my kid. A kid that I took possession
You're
of.
the guardian.
A kid that I stole from the hospital nursery, technically. Look, it's about crime. The game is about crime, technically. But I have been distracted. As always, every entry in this series, I want to focus on the main story, get that good Japanese soap opera crime drama, high tension, big plot twists, great stories, each and every one of this game series. But the side quests are where the business is at, because it doesn't matter what you're doing in this town, someone will stop you with their problems. And I have had all sorts of things. Just in this past fortnight, I have had a guy hanging out of a window by his foot with a selfie stick trying to get YouTube likes. So I was on my way to help him, and then I got interrupted by taking out New Japan Pro wrestlers who have formed a gang. And then somebody lost their Roomba, which had eaten up an engagement ring, and then took off down the streets of Kamurocho.
It's alive. That would be an amazing way to rob people. Program
With the crazy Roomba.
Put like a rogue AI inside a Roomba.
I've also learnt the very powerful move, which is seen in multiple animes, where the guy puts his hand on the wall behind a female and sort of asserts.
Kind of slams it next to her head. It seems like it should be a threatening thing.
Oh, but they go weak at the knees.
But it's always painted in such a romantic way, I guess. It's not just Japanese like anime. This is, I think, I've noticed it in a lot of Korean dramas and stuff too. So maybe it's just more of an Asian cultural drama thing, a trope. That
Possibly.
would be the right
well,
word.
I learned how to do it against a person in a bar, and then I flexed that same skill against a thug, and he ran away terrified. So there you go. It comes in handy in many opportunities. Now, I have also caught the attention of darts legend Paul Lim, and while I was doing all this, I remembered that I never actually got around to helping that poor guy who was hanging out the window by his foot. So I thought after 4 hours, I should probably go back and help him too. So it's been going very well.
He's got good leg strength to last that long.
He was obviously live streaming the whole thing because he was very happy with his footage.
Gosh.
But it is fun. It is amusing. Seeing the New Japan Pro wrestlers in particular, being big pro wrestling fans as we are as well, seeing them and their likenesses in the game, not 100% accurate likenesses, as you've pointed out.
I can't stop laughing at just how fat Naito's neck is. It's like it's not that thick.
And
they all have very thick necks for some
I don't
reason.
care, even if we are in the PS5 era. No technology could capture how beautiful Hiroshi Tanahashi's hair should be. So they're in there. It's kind of fun. They formed a gang of thugs, and it's very amusing. You're doing like a reverse tower defense style game to take out the leaders. It's one of the weird things. We've got baseball simulators. We've got this little thug game. All sorts of fun little diversions. Spearfishing's a good one too. I had a good time with the spearfishing in Yakuza 6. I've been making lots of progress.
I feel like when you talk about Yakuza, that you are mentioning almost like about 10 other games, even though you are just talking about Yakuza, because there's so many side little mini games inside this game. And, I mean, I guess it's like GTA where you can get lost in all these little fluff things that you can do and forget completely about the main mission.
Well, not just that. There are actual full games included as well. You can go to a Club Sega and you can play Puyo Puyo. You can play Virtua Fighter 5. You can play Outrun. You can play Space Harrier. So many options. Good fun. Good times. What is
Value
it? It's
for money.
It's a game about Japanese crime, apparently. I haven't actually progressed the story in a little while. Up to chapter 7 in that. I want to try and finish it before the month of Feb because a little something's coming up that month every year. That special month of February.
You might be tackling that solo.
Oh, more details at the end of this podcast. What have you been playing this fortnight? This new year, new you, new games, old games.
Persona 5 Royal. I've played some more Overcooked All You Can Eat with you. I think last episode we said that we were going to try to finish off one of the Overcooked things. We've managed to do Overcooked 1 and finished Overcooked 2. And now we've been working on all the DLC.
And the ever peckish returns, rises, whatever it is.
It has been very fun getting the new unlockable characters. Obviously, there's the Swedish chef, and that was fun. But that was like just free DLC. But once you beat Overcooked, the original game, you get a little mini ever peckish chef. So that's fun.
The occasionally peckish.
So he's just kind of half eating all the dishes as he's making them. And then the chef you get after beating Overcooked 2 is an bread, which is like zombie bread. And it's got like a bite taken out of it and it's moldy with red eyes and it's adorable.
You are a big fan of playing as that little mini ever peckish.
Well, it's pretty funny because he's just got the most hilarious toothy grin. And I like to play as characters that it's easy for me to spot them wherever they are on the map. Because some levels, especially if we're doing multiplayer with friends, it's easy to get lost because everyone's wearing chef hats. So I like to choose like bright and colourful or weird ones so that they stick out to me. because otherwise I can get confused with where I am and think I'm playing as somebody else.
Now, we are no strangers to Overcooked. This is all you can eat, the PS5 version with the compilation of all the previous content
So fast.
and a little bit extra. And, yes, the loading is incredibly fast, which I don't think we could go back to playing old school Overcooked. But we found this game makes you far more clumsy than the other entries in the series.
Yes, if you are dashing and you hit each other, you rebound. It's kind of almost like Fall Guys level of rebounding off of each other, which is a little annoying. But I guess it's a nice added challenge because most people, I would say a fair chunk of people that are playing this are ones that already loved the games from the PlayStation 4. So it's nice that they've upped the ante and made it a little more difficult, not unrealistically so, not unachievable, but just added some just minor tweaks and nips and tucks, and I think it's made both games much neater. The graphics have been sharpened and improved for both of them as well. So
yeah, this game's also made me a liar after we started to play the Festive Seasoning DLC again.
yes.
And towards the very beginning of this podcast journey,
Episode 3, guys.
we got challenged to break a record set by our family members. And after a arduous marathon, trying and failing and trying and failing and trying and failing.
And we just had to succeed once, and we did.
And I said I would never play that level ever again. And I have. And thankfully, it was much more enjoyable when you actually just play it for fun.
Yeah, imagine that.
Who would have thought?
I was trying to remember, though, what rhythm we had when we played it last time, because we weren't wasting any turkeys and things like that. But this time around, obviously we weren't as fast. And part of me was like, no, how did we do it?
Those memories have been repressed, never to be thought of again. And overall, I am enjoying our time with Overcooked All You Can Eat.
Me too.
Now let's talk about the big glitchy elephant in the room. I have begun a journey into 2077. But the question is, has it been super fun or cyber junk? 2077.
Well, you are playing it on a newer console, so hopefully it's not as glitchy.
Yes, that is exactly right. I have been playing Cyberpunk 2077 and have been enjoying Cyberpunk 2077. I have had only 2 minor glitches, both rather amusing ones, nothing game-breaking. And if there is so much variety in what this game could do to you, as far as how dangerous those glitches could be, corrupted saves are possible, getting stuck inside a wall, losing progress would be possible, an NPC turning hostile, I guess, could be possible. But all I've had is a corpse fall from the sky. Just going to assume the guy
It
just
was funny.
either had enough with the night city life, or maybe he parachuted in without a parachute. But then he vanished immediately when I tried to inspect him. And secondly, a rather attractive lady in a bar was trying to flirt with me by forming the old T-pose. Apart from those, now they're the only ones I've had any issues with. Story, so far, phenomenal. About 8 hours in, I think. I've enjoyed the story. I have loved the characters, the performances, the delivery, everything.
The awesome nails I gave your character.
Okay, let's discuss that. So I decided to let Jem create my character.
Yes.
And it was a test of trust.
It was also a setup because you wanted to see my reaction. I did not know just how deeply you could customize your character, right? They have thought of more than pretty much any other game that I've played when it comes to character creation.
Yes.
And
that's all the detail we need.
No. We're telling the story in full, mister. You did this to me, therefore I share. And it gets to the point when you normally, in some games, it might let you choose undergarments, right? Not Cyberpunk 2077. It lets you choose genitalia. And I was a bit like, what?
Again, test of trust.
Yes. And so I had the choice to also choose size. Needless to say, there was much immature giggling going on. I was very, very tempted to be kind of cruel to you.
Well, overall, you didn't do too badly when you created my character.
I had the option to turn you into a Ken doll.
You gave me funky red hair, crazy red eyes, a beautiful crimson beard as well, can I just say? And overall, my character looked rather handsome. But he has black
Just
nails.
with an edge.
Black nails with little fire insignias on
Hot
them.
rod decals.
Beautiful. Now, I didn't know those were on my character until I started, was an hour in, when they picked up a radio in first person. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is that?
I knew it would be the only thing you really see of your character because you're always playing in first person. I'm like, unless he sees his reflection, he's not going to know what he looks like. He doesn't care how ridiculous he looks. So I'm like, let's paint those nails.
Now, I think that is unfair because I did a mission where I was supposed to be undercover and the whole thing fell apart, and I'm blaming you for giving me those telltale nails.
You could have worn gloves.
Yeah, it would have been an easy fix, wouldn't it?
Just change the paint on your nails.
Good fun. Anyway, I have enjoyed Cyberpunk. I'm trying to play it in large blocks so that I can dive in and get immersed. And even if I don't achieve much in the game, I'm still drinking it in and having a good time with it. So Cyberpunk, still early times, not laying out any spoilers, but everything the story has hit me with so far has been phenomenal. There's been blindside moments, things I didn't expect, characters doing things that I did not think they were going to do, all sorts of good stuff, everything that I love in a narrative, in character development, Cyberpunk has delivered. And as a bonus, an unexpected bonus, it's running pretty well as well on the Xbox Series X.
Yes.
Now, there's also a game this fortnight that you have enjoyed a little too much at times. The PS Plus freebie for the PS5 this month is Maneater.
Maneater.
And my goodness, I had a feeling that my wife might enjoy this game if she's in the right/wrong mindset. And I was correct.
So basically you play as a shark, a bull shark. And I haven't got very far. I think I got through the tutorial and past the first cutscene. I never do this normally. Like, I actually get very mad at people who usually skip narrative and story, but I deliberately skipped cutscenes because I did not want to see them gutting a shark.
It's fair enough.
So I'm like, no, I know where this is going. Skip. I think the only other thing I've ever really skipped is those scenes in Persona 5 when they're using guillotines on the shadows. And I know that it's all, like, it's not even really that necessarily gory, but me and guillotines, I don't like them.
Gem plus blades plus necks equals no.
Yeah. I have a thing about it. Anyways, so I had fun kind of just toying around in the bay and messing around. You start off kind of just eating fish and learning how to tail whip, and then eventually they're like, okay, go attack some beachgoers.
And you said gladly.
They had some people floating on like those like unicorn big float donut things I think you could fit like about 4 people on each of them, and then I popped them and sent them flying.
Well, first you just surfaced next to them.
I did some circling around them. You gotta mess with them. It's kind of fun hearing people panicking. Yeah.
I wish I had recorded the audio of Jim trying this, because she had to simply kill 10 people. Eat them, chomp them up, piece of cake. She grabbed one poor sucker, just dragged him under, and didn't want to finish the job. I'm like, what are you doing? She goes, I want to see if he drowns. And yes, he did.
I wanted to see if it was a mechanic.
And then she let another guy go after she chomped his leg off, just to see if he could swim back to shore, okay?
I wasn't wasn't sure how much, like, whether if you bit someone, if it was instant death or if it was like a couple of goes kind of thing. So this is I think part of the tutorial process, figuring stuff out while you've got practically unlimited health and such. So, yeah.
Well, all the possible experiences you can have in the video game world, and I have yet to see anything that fit the power-hungry nature of my wife than leaping out of the water and spearing, like tackling a dude on a boat to the point where he got flown out and chomped in one swift motion. That's a power fantasy right there that you were greatly enjoying.
I don't know. I think Burnout came pretty close.
Oh, yeah.
If anything has shown my dangerous and somewhat sadistic side, it's Burnout and my need to destroy buses in that game. I don't care about any of the drag races and stuff. Just let me crash into things and I'm having a good time. Anyways, yeah. So I haven't got, I think, very far at all with Maneater. But if the right mood takes me, it could be a good time.
It is the perfect sort of PS Plus freebie, in my opinion. Not something you might buy at full price, but something it seems like an interesting concept and something you can have a bit of fun with some friends over and no extra charge if you have that subscription and a PS5. Good times.
Yes, they do a good job of also making you be on the side of the shark in case you feel guilty about, eating humans. They put a character in there that makes you really not care anymore.
I often don't feel bad about eating humans. Oh, you meant it's the shark.
Okay. So aside from Maneater and Overcooked and Persona, I'm trying to think of what else we got up to in this past fortnight. A bit of Greedfall. Just a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. And some, like a little bit of Tetris.
Oh, goodness.
I've been trying to play it on harder difficulties. So, yes, it's starting to hurt my eyes.
Quite the gaming buffet for you this fortnight.
It has been.
Starting off 2021.
Oh, nearly
fire.
forgot.
Oh.
And of course, Fall Guys with Season 3 with the Christmassy themes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And ironically, the best that I did was on a level that I'd never played, one of the newer ones, one of the snow-themed ones where you've got little trigger pads that launch you as soon as you step onto them and stuff. I think I fluked my way through that level.
Chaining together a few of them just by sheer luck.
My timing and things, I'm like going, okay.
Overtaking.
Normally a new level will be my end because I'm not familiar with it, but this one I just flew through. I'm like, well, that worked out quite nicely.
Because you were unfamiliar with it, you were lagging behind a little bit, but then you hit pretty much 3 of those bounce, and overtook 25 people.
Sent over the line, and I'm like, well, there we go. So, yes, lots of fun. Surprising amount of games played in the last fortnight. It's been nice.
It has been busy.
Anything else on your list? No?
That's it. That'll do for now.
Well, we'll be back after this with all the latest news from a certain wrestling promotion.
You're listening to the Gaming Lovers Podcast. Want to join the conversation? Visit thegaminglovers.com. Record your comment or question by clicking on the button on the right-hand side, and you could be featured in the next podcast.
So normally when we bring up wrestling games, the only game really to bring up, I guess technically wrestling promotion to think of would be WWE games and the 2K games that they vomit out every year.
That's how it has been recently.
They used to be good. That's going back a while though. I think the last one that we really enjoyed was Raw vs. SmackDown on the Xbox. I remember really enjoying that, and that's where I'm like, oh, these are really fun, especially when you can have 4 players and everyone can get in and you just do a fatal 4-way and have at it. But
arguably one of your gateways into wrestling.
Yeah, probably. And it was hilarious because you could customize your character, so you could have this very skinny girl, but you could make her weigh like a heavyweight so that no one could actually lift them up when they try to do a suplex, and it just looked hilarious.
550 pounds of wafer thin woman.
So funny. Anyways, WWE has continued their downward trend as far as video game quality, but another wrestling promotion has entered the ring, and it's not New Japan. I mean, they've dabbled in games as well over the years that usually only really get released in Japan. They get featured in games like Yakuza, which is hilarious. But AEW, All Elite Wrestling, has had probably a banner year the last year, despite everything. They've probably been one of the few businesses that have really thrived in the midst of this pandemic, and they've handled it really well. And in the midst of all of this, kind of quietly behind the scenes, they have been cooking up their own video game brand to not only work on a couple of money-making mobile games, which, that's all well and good. I mean, I don't mind mobile games, but I see, they are what they are. But the one that's very exciting is, a proper wrestling game, and they've brought back developers and producers and creators from the older wrestling games that made the good wrestling ones, even No Mercy on the Nintendo 64.
That's right. The reason why this is such an interesting discussion point for this podcast is that we throw around the term sometimes by gamers, for gamers. By fans, for fans. This is an example of this, and it looks like it's going to be done right.
Yes.
A lot of the talent of this wrestling company, the culture has changed from the 80s where it was all about just getting drunk, doing drugs, hooking up with women, and living a very unhealthy lifestyle on the road as a wrestler. Now, they gather around, they play video games together.
They probably still get drunk.
Several of them probably do. But it's certainly a lot more healthier, and video games are a big part of the wrestling locker room culture now. And so as a result, this new wrestling company, they have creative freedom on their product, and they are actually giving feedback, giving input to what a fan would want a good wrestling game to be. Now, if you translated that to any other genre, if you've ever had an idea that you thought, man, a Sonic the Hedgehog game would be awesome if it was good, and I have great ideas, why don't they make a good Sonic the Hedgehog game? That's how it feels with wrestling games recently, because they have just been poor. And if you've liked anything that has just progressively gone down in quality, and you think, I have great ideas here. If only I had the power to influence this creation of this genre. And AEW taking a hands-on approach with making their own video game.
Yes.
Not just handballing it to a developer saying, here's our face scans, make us a game.
Here's the IP, you use it, make a game as quickly as you can kind of deal, which happens so often. And that's where so many trash fire games come from. E.T., I think, is a prime example of that.
Make us an E.T. game.
Yeah.
You've got a week.
You've got 3 weeks. That was very rushed, wasn't it?
Yes.
But these guys, they had meetings in Japan, flying back and forth between Japan and America, all very serious, very interested in making a good game, to the point where they've said, we don't know when it's coming out. Like, we know it's in the process. They've shown little bits and pieces of what they've been working on, but they're like, it may come out this year, it may come out next year. There's no set time frame, because they want it to be the best game possible, and hearing that makes me happy.
Yeah, and that's another strange thing about this, just as a development technique, method, they have said they're going to be completely transparent with the fan base. Any update they get, they're handing it out straight out to the fans to let them know how the project's going, what issues they're facing, what sort of milestones they've reached. Things like that. They're not just hiding it away and keeping it secret and then we'll have a big reveal of everything. It's sort of being far more drip-fed with these details.
It's almost like a Patreon kind of relationship between the fans and the developers and AEW to be like, you know what, come along this journey with us. And, you know, that's a clever way of also building the hype, but also having the fans feel a little bit of ownership as well to get invested early, I guess.
Yep.
I think it's a good marketing technique, one that certain businesses, especially big kind of solidified ones, are too scared to take.
Yeah, we've seen this in recent years. Cyberpunk's a perfect example where during the review period, it just have this PC version to review, please, and don't ask us about the console version, and you can only use the footage that we've provided you, so you can't show anyone.
That right there is a huge red flag.
Yeah, lots and lots of things that, as much as I love CD Projekt Red and as much as I've had a great time with Cyberpunk personally, it felt very shifty and very, no, we're just going to show you what we want you to know.
Yeah. It comes across as very manipulative. And that's not what you want. I think it's more important than ever to have a sense of trust between you and your fans, those that are consuming whatever it is that you're selling. You know, if they can't trust you, if they feel like you're pulling the wool over their eyes, then they are much less likely to come back. So it's nice to see AEW is learning from, I think, a number of fields, as far as I think some shots were fired at WWE as far as the quality of the games that they spit out, kind of saying, you know, it's not going to be rushed, it's not going to be this, it's not going to be that. And we are going to be transparent. We're going to, all these things that they were promising, it's like that it reminded me a little bit of E3 when it was Xbox versus PlayStation and Xbox did all these things and everyone's like, rah, and then PlayStation's like, well, we're not going to do any of that. And hey, they were the heroes. You know, it didn't take much, but it feels like AEW's kind of been using that tactic, not just with what they put on each week for their show, but now with the video game market as well and how they're handling that.
Yeah.
I think the people that are helping make decisions, maybe they're a bit younger than the people at WWE, those that are calling the shots. They understand this market.
And they understand the video game culture more. They understand the streaming culture more. They understand the community aspect of gaming.
Yes.
And overall, it's an exciting little project that we're just keeping an eye on. Because there has not been a good wrestling game that I've clamoured for in a long time.
No.
And if this is done well, I'll be as happy as anything.
I mean, I was excited for a woman to be featured on the cover for like the first time ever with Becky Lynch. And she didn't get it solo. She still had to share the cover. But it was a horrible game and I couldn't justify buying it even though she was on the cover. So I'm like, sorry, Bex.
Share the love. Follow us on Twitter at BrendoGem. That's BrendoJem.
With all this talk of new games in the works from AEW, what else are you looking forward to? It's a new year.
It is. New year, new us. New me.
We haven't really discussed what games we are most anticipating for this year, 2021.
Well, I'll throw out a quick one that's going to be releasing this month and will cost me a whole lot of $0 because it will be included on the Game Pass. I am talking about The Medium, a game by Bloober Team.
Bloober.
Who have made some enjoyable horror experiences in the past, all first person.
That's an oxymoron right there.
What?
Enjoyable horror.
There can be enjoyable horror and there can be horror that is just pathetic.
I know, but it's literally horror, right? It's horrific. If something is horrific, it should it's not enjoyable.
We have been over this before. You watch movies that make you sad on purpose. Why would you do that to yourself?
So I can justify crying when I'm hormonal.
And there you go. And I watch horror movies to justify wetting myself occasionally. Okay? It's fine. I'll clean it up later. But The Medium, I'm excited for because Not because it's a show that was on TV. It was like a
Yes,
crime,
the
but
blonde
with ghosts.
chick.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with that. So that is a dated reference that was completely unnecessary. But The Medium takes place in two different realities at the same time. The whole game, I believe, is played in a weird third-person split screen between this world and another mystery fantasy.
No, I remember that
spirity
from
realm.
the trailer.
And it's an idea that they've wanted to do, but never had the technology powerful enough to render the two things at once reliably. And here we are. The next gen is here. It is an Xbox exclusive, at least for the time being. It will be on Game Pass. It's already preloaded on our console. We're just counting down the days to the 29th of January, and it may just be a perfect contender for something that happens next month. When I finally get to catch up with my good buddy the Falcon too, who has leave in February.
Woohoo.
So, considering we got our console back in, November? And he still hasn't come over to test them out? Life gets in the way sometimes. What about yourself? Is there anything you are looking forward to in 2021?
Well, I am not entirely sure if the game that I am most excited for is actually coming out this year. Like, I think
It is.
it's supposed to be, but it may not. Like,
What games don't get delayed? What are you talking about?
Look, I would rather it get delayed than have issues. But Horizon Forbidden West
Yes.
is like my game that I'm drooling over. Number one spot anyway. But close second would have to be Hogwarts Legacy.
Ooh.
It's got me interested. It kind of hits a lot of my buttons as far as gaming interests. With being an RPG, having the option like getting basically different stories depending on what house you get sorted to, and choosing what subjects and things you specialize in, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And the story and an RPG and I'm half of it. I need more of that in my life. There is plenty of action shooters. Thank you.
Yeah. It does look good. And I am also excited for Hogwarts Legacy.
Which house will you be in?
See, I'm like a four-way split, so really...
I guess you'll find out when you get sorted.
Sort me!
I wonder if you'll answer a quiz and that's how you get sorted. Like you do, like a BuzzFeed quiz.
Oh,
Which
gosh.
colour are you?
Which animal do you like the most? Snake, bird, lion, or badger? Snake.
Snake eater.
Something that I'm very excited for. The last two entries in this saga have been phenomenal, and Hitman 3 is almost on our doorstep. And, man, if you have seen the VR footage playing Hitman in VR, a game that is basically a playful sandbox of murder. It sounded way worse than I meant it to, but it is fun to plan out, infiltrate, execute both the plan and the target. Ooh, double play. Doing that is fun. Doing that in first person is also quite fun. But doing it in VR, you can tap a guard on the shoulder. He turns around and looks. Oh, there's nothing there. And as he turns back, you can punch him in the jaw and knock him out. Pick up his body, throw him over a balcony. All in first person, all with real arms as well. You're always complaining that VR games seem to have floating hands.
Yes.
We have connected arms. This is the future.
Yay.
Running on a PS4 VR headset, which is technically not the present, it's the past. Is it? I don't know.
Another one that is definitely on our radar is the new Ratchet and Clank game.
Oh, yeah.
It looks amazing, and it's definitely going to be one of those games that you also use to show off the PlayStation 5, I think. Very, 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 very exciting.
We've also got a few games that were delayed, were supposed to be out, but are currently not, like Deathloop.
Yes.
Which, if it has enough substance behind its style, I'm going to be all over that. We've got Halo, the big Halo Infinite, which was supposed to be a launch title, did not make the time cut. But next-gen Halo, if it has a good enough campaign, I'll be on board. But I was a bit disappointed with the last few entries in that series, so we will tentatively look forward to that, personally.
Another one definitely on my list, and I believe you keep reminding me that I need to finish Persona 5 Royal beforehand, is Persona 5 Strikers, because it is a canonical sequel. Even though the game style is very different, there is going to be a continuation of story, which is actually really nice and refreshing.
Yes, indeed. That is coming up next month. And I don't want this to be a Persona Q and Persona Q2 situation where you're like, yes, buy it on day one. But I haven't beaten the first one yet, but I will get through it. But I will not, because I've tried it 3 times, and I will not. So,
but you'll play it.
Oh, yeah, I'll play it for sure.
Speaking of which, Trails of Cold Steel 4, anybody?
Yeah, that's already out, and I haven't even done Trails of Cold Steel 3. But there's a certain initiative happening in February that will clear my backlog ready for Trails of Cold Steel 3 to finally get played. That's the plan anyway. I'm sure there'll be things in the way like Persona 5 Strikers that will just completely derail that plan.
And of course, there is one in particular that's going to be getting my money. And potentially coming out around March.
Oh, the
thanks
rumors.
to some leakage from a shop.
Leakage. I must have watched another horror movie.
Thanks to a shop, I think it's Spain? Mass Effect, the Legendary Edition, the trilogy coming back out remastered. That's this year. So, I'm going to get on it.
Yeah.
And depending on which consoles, there may be multiple purchases.
Oh, there always is with Mass Effect in this house.
Hey, if there is more trophies and achievements to be had.
Well, speaking of horror-based leakages, Resident Evil 8 Village should be coming out this year. And, spooky month, anyone? Potentially? It would be a perfect time for that to launch. I just want to know what's going on with Mr. Chris Redfield. I have questions. Big questions.
How dare he?
Well, there are always plenty of video games that suddenly pop up and catch our attention just unexpectedly. So there's going to be many more than those we've just talked about that will no doubt end up on our shelves, never to be played. But 2021 is still looking pretty good for video games.
Absolutely. And hopefully they don't get delayed and the situation globally doesn't slow progress down as far as development, but time will tell. Either way, there is some very promising games to look forward to this year, and I'm going to play them, but I better finish what I'm playing now so I can play them when they do come out.
Well, let's talk about that after this.
Share the love. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Gaming Lovers.
Let us look forward to the future. Let us look forward to our next 2 weeks, and let us look forward to our gaming goals, and we will set some challenges for ourselves.
Let us chop some lettuce in Overcooked 2.
Okay, that's a good one. We'll chop 1 lettuce in Overcooked 2. Done and done.
Well, technically,
Not
Overcooked 2.
I
It'd be
always-
Overcooked. I Overcooked all you can eat. I always forget.
AYCE.
2.B?
2.B. That's just so good. That's like a Final Fantasy sequel.
No, Kingdom Hearts.
Yes, very true.
Anyway, there will be probably more Overcooked in the next fortnight for us, as that is our joint gaming when we have some brief moments of quiet. Player 3 is down for a nap, for example, and we're both home. It is a good short burst kind of thing.
Yeah, we're chipping away at the previous game's DLC included in this bundle, and each of those only has a handful of levels, so they're nice to just have a quick little half-hour session, knock out 5, 6, 7, 8 levels, and that's it. So let's try and get through at least, say, 3 of those
Sounds good.
in the next fortnight.
Extra trimmings.
Extra trimmings.
Delicious.
No pickle.
No, he only likes pickles.
No pickle.
I would like to get to at least the next palace, like have found the next palace in Persona 5 Royal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to gauge how much time is in between palaces now with this new game because there's just so much extra stuff.
Yeah. It's like, there's only 3 in-game days until we reach it. Oh, look, a 4-hour cutscene.
It's not always that, but now that there's extra side characters and a whole extra semester's worth of activities and time, it's changed the pacing a little bit of the game. So now I'm not entirely sure just how much time I have in between things. So, it's a bit of a guessing game. But I do want to get back into that. And if the mood takes me, I've got several other side games to dabble in.
Will you be dabbling in Maneater?
Maybe.
Will you be dabbling in Tetris Effect Connected?
Possibly. Oh, I forgot something else that I played.
Oh.
Astro's Playroom. I almost finished it.
Almost finished it.
I almost finished it. I got to the boss and then said...
I have to give credit where credit is due. Jem has battled through her frustrations at platforming games to enjoy, hopefully, Astro's Playroom. She has endured some frustrating controls with the gimmicky bits that she doesn't really like.
No.
But she has conquered them. And now she's up to the final boss in Astro's Playroom and died to him once and then said no.
Hey, I got past the first wave section, right, and then the dinosaur came back, but as a different dinosaur. And I feel like that should be a checkpoint, you know? I'm like, come on, I got past that. I should be able, if I die, I should be able to start from there, not have to go back to the beginning.
So the question is, will you conquer that dinosaur?
No.
Okay, never mind. So my gaming goals for this fortnight. Cyberpunk is very difficult for me to actually lay out gaming goals for because I'm still learning about how this game is structured. But main missions, I guess I could, there's acts. There are acts in the game. I'm in Act 1 or Act 2. Is the prologue an act?
Stage left or stage right?
Is the prologue Act 1 or is there prologue? I'm a couple of acts in, but I don't know if I'm still in Act 1. I don't even know. Do I even play this game? Possibly. Anyway, Keanu Reeves is on the scene, by the way. I quite like the way his character is introduced. That is all I will mention of that. How do I set a gaming goal for Cyberpunk? Just X amount of hours?
I don't know.
How about at least, we'll go with 3 again. It's a good round number. At least 3 2-hour sessions nestled in to this 2-week period should be enough to get more acquainted with this game, be able to make a better judgment on whether it is succeeding in my Smoochie Awards for 2021.
Already calling it early. So you do this and then something comes and steals it later on.
Oh, well, there you go. It's a scramble. It is a scramble. Something that's far easier to set a challenge in is Yakuza 6. And I would like to have this game beaten as soonish as possible because I don't like to have too many open world, long, story-heavy games going at the same time. And so, with Cyberpunk as long as it is, Yakuza's much shorter. This is one of the shorter Yakuza games. Can I beat it by the end of the month?
I think so.
My answer is, I think so.
It depends on how distracted you get with all the side stuff.
Yeah,
So-
I'm trying not to. I do this with a lot of Yakuza games. I play so much side stuff that then I just go, nope, that's it. I can do it all in New Game Plus or whatever the mode's called in this that lets you just revisit all the old stuff. So I'm going to set a quite lofty gaming goal to complete the main story of Yakuza 6.
Very lofty. Good luck.
Thank you. They're my main 2 games because I want to clear Yakuza off the plate
So you can focus on Maneater.
so I can focus on 4 in Feb. Because we're doing this fortnightly, by the time our next podcast drops, we're going to be at the doorstep of 4 in Feb. Am I going to do my usual of 4 games start to finish that I've never played before? Or will there be some adjustments made due to life conditions, as in, I have a son now? We'll have to wait and see in 2 weeks.
How many short games are there?
I'm going to play Pong and Tetris and Pac-Man.
But wait, what counts as beating those games? Those games don't
Just
really
dying.
end.
Just dying.
Okay. You just let it run and then done.
Well, this is a discussion for another time. We'll
Anyway.
figure that out next episode. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I'm excited for what 2021 brings us in the video game landscape. The rest of the world's just garbage. This is just an extension of 2020 worldwide. But 2021 games, 2020 was pretty good with games. So let's keep that train rolling.
Yeah, let's keep the trend of good games going and we'll focus on that. Focus on the positives for this year. I think that's what we need.
That's right. Until next time.
Sayonara.
I was about to say sayonara. I don't know why I thought that was my one, but I guess I'll just say a big old chowski.
Thanks for listening to the Gaming Lovers Podcast. For more episodes or to watch some live stream gaming, visit thegaminglovers.com.